Time flies, and before you know it, it's time for your little one to turn 1. Babies grow at an exceptional speed throughout their first year. But what exactly should they be able to do between the months of 6 and 12 months, Betty?
So it's a lovely, exciting time.
It is.
Because they're learning new skills and they're adventurous and they want to explore their environments. So the things that babies tend to be doing at around the 6-month mark, sometimes is sitting with support. So they're able to sit for short periods with cushions or some support.
That's when, mums have got cushions all around and all the coffee tables are moved. And
That's the time. And then they transition from that to sitting without support. And by the time they're maybe 9 or 10 months, starting to crawl and explore their environment that way. And that's really useful for them because they can get to the toys that they can't reach. And then by the time they're 9 months, some babies are even pulling to stand with furniture, or that's usually a skill around the 1 year mark, pulling to stand. And then initially they cruise along the furniture, so they hold on to the furniture and move along, and then finally start taking their first steps. So the first steps are around that 1 year mark, which is really exciting, really lovely time. Lots of photos, call grandma, call everyone.
Yeah. And I think it's that time where it goes from baby laying on the floor and you knowing exactly where they are to them just disappearing. And you're like,
they've gone.
And you can see them do the caterpillar or the bottom shuffle or something like that too.
So a lot of children will develop in their own way. So that's true that not all babies will crawl before they walk. Some babies will bottom shuffle and some babies will just do a little bit of a scoot around on their belly before they learn how to go onto all fours. But that's all part of the normal development, and there's no right time for each baby. They do it at their own time. So any time between 9 months or 18 months is within the normal range for starting to walk.
Because a lot of people do freak out. It's like, oh, he's 16 months old and still hasn't walked.
That's fine, as long as he's showing progress. And some children will do some, so that's the gross motor milestones. And some children will do a lot of the gross motor milestones in spurts and then concentrate on another area, for example, their speech and language or their social development, and then take some time to go back to the motor milestones. So they do occur at the same time, but in a different way in every child. So that's the gross motor milestones. And then you have the fine motor skills, which is using the small muscles, and that can be in a little 6-month-old using their hands or the palms of their hand to transfer objects from one hand to another across the midline. And that's something that we ask about. Are you seeing your baby transferring? And that's a good skill to be learning around that age. And then from that age, by the time they're 9 months, they're starting to isolate the little muscles. So we'll talk about a pincer grasp, which is using your thumb and your forefinger. And what you ask mums is, are they picking up stuff from the floor, little objects? And they'll say, yeah, he finds little bits of dirt on the carpet and gets it. And that's a new skill that they've learned, and they use that. By the time they're 9 months, they're starting to pick up finger foods, so biscuits or carrot sticks, and putting them in their mouth, and they
cockroaches too.
All sorts. It goes directly into their mouth. And that's a skill. And then by the time they're a little bit older, so they then have some understanding of awareness of an object that's covered up. So if you put an object outside their vision, they'll look for it. They're looking for toys that are hidden inside containers. And by the time they're around the 12 months, they're starting to bang things together to explore what sounds they make and maybe put things into boxes and out and repeating that. And that's a lovely game, or passing things to you and getting them back. And that's also a very lovely skill. And then they have some speech milestones as well. So around 6 months, we expect them to babble. Lots of lovely sounds, not that make any sense, but they start to use maybe consonants and a vowel together. So mama, mama, ma, da, 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 and baba. And obviously, I won't get into the fight of who said it first. Was it mum or dad that the child said it first?
No.
It varies. They're using their mouth, and they mimic the speech that they grow up with. So depending on what culture they're growing in, that will be the tone and the intonation of the speech that they use. And then by the time they're 12 months old, they're starting to say maybe single words, but that can vary.
Bike. Truck is my favorite.
That would be very advanced. Truck.
So not by 12 months, that's a bit older, isn't it?
That's a bit older. Usually by the time... so one, it's probably mama, dada, sort of double vowel sounds. But then once they get a little bit older, 18 months, maybe they'll start putting more tricky words together.
Okay.
And then
See, I forget now. Isn't it funny how you forget?
Unless you have a little one. But it's a really lovely thing to watch them grow.
Yeah.
And then there's social milestones.
You're making me clucky just thinking about this time. This stage is the funnest, I reckon.
It is the funnest because they're so inquisitive. So you go from a lovely baby who just coos and giggles and laughs to having at 6 months old or 8 months old, a baby who's aware of this is somebody I know, this is a family member and this is a stranger. So they become aware of stranger dangers and they prefer their primary carer, who may be mum or dad, to go to them and to comfort them. And then by the time they're 9 months or 10 months, they're starting to wave bye-bye and make sort of social overtures, which are really lovely. And by the time they're 12 months, they're quite independent. They understand the word no. So they can, there's that look that you get from your mum and you know, oh gosh, you can see that they understand the word no.
Yep.
And sometimes we'll be able to understand sort of short commands. So cup, and he'll point to the cup and that sort of thing. So the understanding comes first. They may not be able to express it, but they can understand some words then.
So when should parents be concerned, I guess? What are things that are signs that you should go and see someone?
Yeah. So with most babies, speak to your child health nurse or your GP if you have concerns, but always realize that every baby is slightly different and babies develop at their own range. If you're worried that the developmental stages aren't occurring as you would expect, and there's lots of information out there from your Red Book as well to show you what milestones you should be looking at, then speak to somebody. Some of the unusual or worrying signs would be a baby who's not interacting and who's not showing awareness, or who's not babbling and making sounds, vocalizing at that stage between 6 and 12 months. And see your GP and ask for a referral. They may not do one initially if they want to wait and see if that progress occurs naturally, but it's helpful to voice your concerns and have them addressed.
And because even with the moving and things like that, they should be crawling or sitting or definitely trying to stand and things like that.
Yeah. So the things that I would be concerned about is asymmetry. So babies tend to do things with either hand. Generally, you won't have hand preference until 2 or even older than that. So if they're only using one hand to pick toys or using one hand to reach out for objects, that would be a concern to me. I'd want somebody to check out that there's nothing going on the weaker side. If there's any changes in the way that they're developing, so one of the things that we worry about is regression. So if a baby was starting to sit and starting to show advancing onto movement and getting onto all fours to crawl and then stops doing it, there may be genuine reasons for that. For example, a long illness or a very severe illness where the baby's been in hospital for a little while, we then would be happy with a little bit of regression. But if there's regression without any other factors to explain it, then that's for me a worrying sign, and that's something I would get checked out. Yeah.
So within the first year, you'll see your little one transform from a newborn to an active toddler. So to ensure they're on track developmentally, get in touch with the friendly team at Townsville Paediatrics if you have any concerns, of course.